One of the big things that really helped us is when Geno's came out with this cap where you can, instead of trying to drop this thing in a plastic bag, you just drop it into the only problem is it didn't make the finger. There you go. But this is well made. Geno has them. I'm not affiliated with Geno. I've been having this thing for years. I wish they would have made this hole bigger though, because it's hard for me to get my big finger through this hole. Other than that, works great. And this is the old one. I'm fixing to fill up the other one, do the same thing, reverse process. I also have this, which is what I call my third hand. I've got videos and stuff on it, but it's this thing right here. And I originally made it out of wood just so I could kind of figure out where the hole needed to be. But if you're interested in building one like this, it really helps me anyway, because when you drop that filter down, it's got a place where it can go. And you don't have to worry about it spilling over or anything like that. So that's what I like about it. And it's this is 4 inches by 8 inches, and in the whole placement, I forgot what it is, but I have a video on it if you want to look it up. And it really helps me because I don't have to worry about trying to balance that thing in there while I'm either closing the Ziploc bag or whatever. As I said, I don't use Ziplocs anymore. They work okay, but sometimes they get hooked up on stuff and they tear. So it's not something that I want to use anymore. Not since I got this method. This really works for me. It goes in like this. It can be a little tricky to put in. I've actually forgot it in and went for about 6,000 miles and changed my oil and realized, oops, it's still in there. I couldn't find it. I looked all over in the shelves and everything, couldn't find it. Didn't hurt anything. The only thing I would worry about is maybe these sharp corners would dig a hole into the wheel well as it, vibrating along. But I don't know that for a fact. It didn't, I looked in there and it didn't hurt anything. I think if the person wanted to, you could probably round this off or maybe put some rubberized corners on it or something if you wanted to leave it in. I don't see really any reason why I can't leave it in. But that's another story. Another thing I've gone to over the years is I got a wrench that I use, and I don't use any other wrench. This is just for my oil change. It's the right length. It's a piece of 1/2 inch conduit, I think, electrical conduit, and an old socket. The smaller, the better. And works great for me. And then to set it down when I'm ready to fill my oil up, I just got one of these cheap plastic things that I tried out in the first place. And little things like that for me work well. It may not work for everyone, but it works for me. So there's one other thing I did, which is cut this wheel well out in here. And I think I made a video on that also. Just raised the top of it. I used a Dremel tool, but you can do it with anything. And I just probably took about maybe a 1/2 inch. I want to take a little more, to be honest. But now, when I stab my oil filter, I can see the bottom of the oil filter, that socket, those threads that drop down there that you can screw it onto. So you can see that. And it's a lot easier. If you saw some of my other videos, I used a plumb bob and all kind of crazy things, just trying to make it easier, because for me, the hardest part of the whole thing is coming out of, and that's why I had this. The hardest part of the whole thing is coming out of this and going up and getting the thread started. And I don't like the idea of bouncing it around up there and maybe knocking off some crap in your oil filter and stuff. Lint-free rag, yep, very important. And that thing's a little bit too cheap, but it works. And then we'll lube this up a little bit, just so that when we put it in, it doesn't leak. And then we'll lube it up again once we get it on there. Now I gotta put this back in because I pulled it out to show you. So anyway, goes in like this. Once you kind of get the technique, it's very easy. It sits right on top of the bolts for the, you can feel it when it's in there, it just doesn't move. It fits right on top of the bolts on the oil pan, and then it hits the, I think the frame and then the wheel well back here. And then you could just put the filter in like this. And that's it. It falls right into place. I mean, it just goes right into place. You can't hardly miss it. There's not enough room. And the beauty of it is now you got a backup, which is why I call it my third hand. You've got a backup down there to where you don't have to try to get in there with two hands and that sort of thing. And you know, like that. That's that simple. Okay. Two other things that I just thought about. One is, and some people have asked me where I bought the bucket that I cut down, because sometimes these brackets are lower and it makes it easier. This particular bucket right here was like this. So I just took my saber saw and went around, and you say, well, okay, now you cut your holes off. But no, you can just drill some more holes and slip this bracket in there, and it works just fine. I use a magnet to fish my plug out. Don't even try to catch it, don't try to save it, just let it go. It's the simplest thing, just spin it, you don't get a drop of oil on you, and then fish it out later. And the other thing that I do is just keep my filter clean in a plastic bag where it's not collecting dust on the shelf and things like that. It's not a big deal, but you know, you don't want to be putting dirt back in your engine. Oh, and yeah, one other thing. As far as quantity of oil, 3 quarts. This is 2 right here, one's up there dripping. But don't, you know, run the engine and then shut it down and check it and then say, oh, it's low. It's never going to be right. Even, I think the manual says 20 minutes. Don't pay any attention to that. Put 3 gallons in. Did I say quarts? Put 3 gallons in and don't even check it. Just look for, crank it up and look for leaks. Check it in the morning. It's going to be right at that top fill mark. Guaranteed. Or your money back for this video. Oh, one other thing. Don't use a bucket that's got a hole in it. See that all leaking out right there? Damn cheap Pep Boy bucket. No wonder they went out of business, huh? No, actually what happened, I think, is I used this bucket one time to scoop out the stuff out of the fireplace, and it was still hot, and I think I burned a hole in it. Nonetheless, this bucket's gone in the garbage now. I thought it was the other one. I knew one of them had a hole in it, but I thought it was the other one. I thought it was a Home Depot. Looks like Home Depot wins this time. And by the way, if you are using a torque wrench, always back the tension off if you want it to stay in calibration. And just back it off, you know, somewhere past 0 is good. And that way the tension on the spring will be relaxed and it'll last longer. Those are the things I wanted to pass on to you. No big deal, but you know, it's just little things that make jobs easier as you get older. I appreciate you guys watching my video, and until next time, adios.